Hey everybody, welcome to RoxTalk, episode 2, here with your hosts Brayden and Dawson Lee. We just wanted to say thank you so much for the initial response to episode 1. Was shocked to see like 2,500 downloads, which again, starting it out of nowhere, was really cool. So we're going to keep up with this every single week. We're excited. I don't want to announce anything yet, but we have a few incredible guests going to be joining us over the course of the next few weeks. And so it's going to be really, really exciting, really, really fun. But thanks for joining us. We're excited about Rockies baseball. And Doss, obviously we got to start with the big news coming out of the Mile High City last Thursday. Tell us about the trade.
Yep. So last Thursday, the Rockies made another big move after acquiring Kris Bryant a week prior. We traded Raimel Tapia to the Toronto Blue Jays for Randal Grichuk. It's kind of shocking in some ways. I wasn't expecting to see Tapia go. Some were, but some weren't. I really am happy with the trade, honestly. I've always kind of been a fan of Randal Grichuk, just watching him play with the Blue Jays and then with the Cardinals like 4 years before that, I think. But yeah, so big news there. I'm excited to see Randal Grichuk and the numbers he can put up at Coors Field. So
yeah, I think it's so interesting. Tapia, we just want to acknowledge here, Tapia was a fan favorite, and in Toronto he's going to be a fan favorite too. He brings energy that's just unmatched. You're not able to find that kind of energy in most guys. He has a swagger about him that just is contagious. And so I was honestly sad to see Top go. It was a little bit sad, but looking at our team as a whole, bringing in Randal Grichuk is a huge move. Last episode we talked about how the Rockies have never done stuff like this before. But to then see them go after Randal Grichuk, I was like, what is going on? So Grichuk, for those of you that don't know, had a pretty big year last year and has been relatively consistent over the course of the last 5 years for sure. Last year he put up 21 home runs, 81 RBIs with the Blue Jays and batted, 280-ish?
I think it was like 260.
But
that's still good.
It's still a good average. Did well. And he definitely has pop. Spring training game on Saturday, he had an absolute shot. And so, he's got power. It's another big right-handed power bat in our lineup. Dus, what do you think? just talk to me about how this impacts our lineup as a whole and what it does for our outfield.
Well, it obviously adds a lot more power. Yeah. Bringing in 21, 22 home runs.
And he'll hit more than
that.
Yeah.
And especially at Coors, he didn't even play the full season last year either. So it just adds a lot of depth to that lineup, and it gives Kris Bryant and CJ Cron, some of those guys, some protection down in the order. Raimel Tapia, he is good, but he has struggled with consistency, with us at least. Had some injuries. So I'm really excited to just see our lineup. It looks like an all-star lineup, honestly.
Really
and it looks like a playoff lineup, too. Lineup that can make the playoffs. And, then you have to add in pitching and consistency there. But when you look at the names and the stats, it sure looks that way. From
top to bottom, and I know we talked about, you already know my feelings about the DH. I'm not a huge fan of that. But adding in that DH spot from number 1 to number 9 on that lineup card, we have players who are going to not just put the ball in play, but people who have like home run power. And you're right. It's a lineup that not only looks like an all-star lineup, but one that looks like, hey, we could go into the playoffs and actually make a run at this because we have the bats to do it. And I'm excited. Listen, there's something to be said for, or I guess I should say it this way. There's a difference between Tapia's contact power, or contact bat, I guess I should say, and Grichuk's power bat. Grichuk is going to put the ball in the air a lot more than Tapia did. And that's going to prove to be helpful at Coors, I think.
Oh, yeah.
Because he's going to get that ball in the air, and the air at Coors and stuff. that's going to sail. I could see him hitting 30 home runs this year. In fact, I expect that.
Yep.
And so I'm pretty darn excited about what's going on with Grichuk here at Coors. Again, sad to see Tapia go. We wish him the absolute best in Toronto. I hope he does great. But we're glad to see him here. So with that, then, who do you think won the trade? I know it kind of sounds like we're alluding to the Rockies, but did we win this trade? And if so, why did the Blue Jays make it? Just walk me through some of that.
So I honestly don't think either team won the trade. I think it was kind of a win-win for both teams, and here's why. Starting with the Rockies, we've been looking for power. We did not hit near as many home runs last year as we should have, especially looking at the lineup and playing at Coors.
Yeah.
And just to win games, you do have to hit home runs. It's not all about home runs, but it does help. So we've been looking for that power bat. We've been looking for a consistent glove. Charlie Blackmon, he's a good player, but he's really struggled in the outfield the past few years. Gotten a little slower, bad reads, stuff like that. So with the DH, it's nice. He can DH, get off his feet, still have his big lefty bat in the lineup, but then we have a consistent glove in Randal Grichuk that we've been looking for in the outfield anyways, to play right field or center and move Sam Hilliard to right, or Garrett Hampson, Jonathan Daza. We have options, which is a good problem to have when you have a good player sitting out one game. They're good problems. So I'm really excited for that. And Raimel also struggled in the field.
He did. Pretty inconsistent
last year, and making some bad throws, bad reads as well. He is fast, so that helps.
Yeah.
But just kind of struggled. So I think we definitely, benefited from the trade. I think from the Blue Jays' perspective, they also won the trade, in their minds at least, in a win-win, because they have George Springer, Teoscar Hernandez, Gurriel Jr.
Yeah.
They have a solid outfield.
Really good outfield, actually.
And they've been looking for speed. When you think of Vladdy, not much speed there, and some guys in that order. And they've been looking for a lefty bat, too. They have a lot of big righty bats.
You're right.
And so I think it's good for them that they found a fast lefty bat and someone who can play outfield, or maybe DH some, who knows, or, pinch run if they need him. And so I think both teams benefited, and kind of a win-win. So
yeah. Well, I don't completely disagree with you at all. I just do feel like the Rockies won this trade. And on TikTok, I was getting questions about that kind of throughout the week, just of, hey, why do you think the Rockies won this trade, or what are your thoughts on the trade? My thought has really been expressed already, but it's just that I feel like we won the trade because we needed a power bat and a consistent glove in the outfield, and we got that in Grichuk. It adds, like you said, options. It gives us more versatility than I think we've ever had, at least in recent memory, in the outfield like that. And it makes our lineup as potent as it's been to this point. I'm serious when I say between Grichuk and Crone and Bryant, and there's a lot. Hilliard, if he has a big year, we have a lot of pop, a lot of power in this lineup. So it gets me excited, and I think we won the trade because while I loved him, Grichuk is going to make more of an impact in Colorado than I think Tapia is going to make in Toronto. Yep. And that's the reason I feel like we won. I think Grichuk comes in and makes an immediate impact, could easily be an opening day starter. Probably will be. Yep. Opening day starter, and then Tapia won't probably be, I wouldn't think. Which again is fine. There's a reason that Toronto did what they did. I just feel personally like the Rockies won that trade.
Yep, I agree. And it was a rare occasion where both teams got what they were looking for.
Certainly.
In a trade.
Which is true. And I understand what
so it's good for both teams,
yeah.
But I think we kind of won it, but I think it's a win-win.
Yeah.
So.
Anyway, Toronto, take care of Tapia.
Yep.
We love him. And he can make an impact. So spring training has been fun. It's been interesting. Of course, spring training is spring training. It doesn't necessarily mean anything, but there are implications. So talk me through some of the stars of spring. Talk me through Crone, because he got hit in the head yesterday.
Yeah. So
help us catch the viewers up, catch me up on that, because I don't know.
Yeah, so it was a split squad game against the Diamondbacks. CJ Crone got hit in the head by a pitch. He was able to trot down to first base, but they took him out, obviously, with spring training especially.
Sure.
No matter what, you want to bring him out and be safe. He seemed to be okay, and then after the game, he passed all the concussion protocols and everything, and Bud Black said that he's good, just was resting him and being safe, so not too much to worry about there, I think, but he got hit in the head like twice last year, too, so I don't know. He's gonna...
The ball finds Crone.
Yeah, gets hit in the head a lot.
Poor guy. Glad he's okay.
Yeah, so that's good. But
so based on spring, who are you looking at in our 2022 season here and saying this could be our breakout star? Who's the first guy that comes to mind, and why?
Ezekiel Tavar has gone off this spring.
Yeah, it's been crazy.
He's had 3 home runs, 7 RBIs. He's hitting above 550. And yes, it is spring training, but these young guys who don't normally play, it's big to prove yourself and
absolutely
try to get a spot on the roster.
Yeah.
The only problem, and he has a good glove too.
He does, certainly.
And that's actually what he's been known for until this spring training. He's showing a lot of power.
Yeah.
The only thing with Tavar that I see is he's 20 years old.
He's young, man.
No experience, been in the minors for probably like 2 years.
Yeah.
So I think if he does come up, it'll be like halfway towards the end of the year maybe, or due to injuries, kind of play like an Alan Trejo type role where he's just, he's on the bench, but he fills in, pinch hits, which we won't be seeing much of that, I guess, with designated hitter.
Yeah.
But you will still see some. But when I think of a breakout star this year, I just see Brennan Rodgers having a huge year, as long as he can stay healthy.
Because that's been the thing.
Yep.
Injuries.
And he had a great year last year.
Yeah.
He still hit, I think it was 14 home runs. It might have been 22. I actually don't know. But if he can stay healthy, he missed like almost half the season. If he can stay healthy, he has a good glove at second base. I think he could use some work fielding.
Yeah.
But he's a really good hitter, shows a lot of power, which, again, we're just a lineup filled with power and potential, for sure. So I think if he can stay healthy, he's my breakout star for the Rockies this year. So.
Well, that's a good pick. I like it. I think Brennan Rodgers, I really hope he has a big year. I think there's a lot that I see in him. Even when I played the show, he's one of my favorite guys to come up in the lineup, which, of course, the show doesn't always translate because we're in the World Series every time I play with the Rockies on the show. But Rodgers, I think, has an opportunity definitely to have a big year, and I think he will.
Yep.
I know a lot of people are like Connor Joe. It seems like he has so much buzz around him, and I'm excited about Connor Joe too. Don't get me wrong. I don't know that he's who I'm.
Yeah.
I don't know that he is my breakout star pick. I actually think that Sam Hilliard is my breakout star. I know the concerns have been strikeouts, but according to all the guys that hit with him every single day, he's got the most pop of anybody on the team. He has the opportunity to hit a ton of home runs, and I just feel like he's got some decent speed. He plays the outfield pretty well.
Good speed.
Plays the outfield pretty well. I think that Sam Hilliard's going to have a heck of a year. I think he's going to be a huge part of the Rockies' success. I see him hitting 20 to 25 home runs as long as he gets those ABs in and stays healthy, of course. I can see him swiping a good amount of bags for us, which is helpful, of course, on the base path. And I just think he's a contributor. He's young, seems to have a lot of energy, and I think he's going to make a big difference. So my breakout star, I think, is Sam Hilliard this year.
Yeah, and part of the thing that's going to help him do better, I think, too, is playing every day. If he
100%.
is,
Which I hope he does.
When you're playing once or twice a week, it's hard to get in that rhythm, and find your swing, find your timing, all that. So I think if he can stay consistent in the lineup,
the DH is going to help him.
DH is going to help.
Yeah.
He'll probably be our center fielder or right fielder, most likely.
Yeah.
We'll just see how all plays out. I'm excited to see what happens. As long as he can cut down on strikeouts, which again, playing more often will help that too, I think. Yeah. But I could see him hitting 25, even maybe 30 home runs too. Because some of his teammates this past week were saying he's the strongest guy on the team.
Yeah.
And when you look at him, you don't really think that. Yeah, he's like 6'5". But when you look at C.J. Cron, Chris Bryant, Charlie Blackmon, Ryan McMahon.
And these are the guys saying that he's...
Yeah, they're the ones who are saying he has the most power.
Yeah.
So yeah, it'll be fun to watch. So
it's just going to be a fun year, and I think we'll see some laser shows. I think we're going to see our lineup absolutely light some people up.
And we did last week against the Cubs. Yeah, it's spring training, but 6 home runs.
Yeah.
17 runs total, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah, spring training, but I'd like to see us do it in the regular season.
And why not?
Yeah.
We have the type of lineup to be able to put up a tremendous amount of runs. But here's where we're at. If the Rockies were in another division, there's my tendency to look at them, and maybe I'm optimistic because I'm a lifelong Rocks fan, but to be like, these guys are going to win the division. The problem is we are in the NL West, and like you say, the wild, wild NL West. So let's just break down the NL West, why it's such a tough division, and then where we see the 5 teams that are in that division finishing, how that's going to play out and shake out this year.
Yeah. So when I look at the NL West, every single team in the NL West made some big moves this offseason.
Absolutely, you're right.
Yeah, the Dodgers lost Corey Seager, some good guys on their team, but also got Freddie Freeman. They lost Albert Pujols too, but he really didn't contribute that much.
Good to see him back in St. Louis.
Yeah, I'm super excited about that. Returning to the Cardinals, if you didn't know that, spent the majority of his career there and won World Series, all that stuff. So that'll be fun to watch. Yeah. And I'm glad that he's ending his career there.
He'll retire a Cardinal. There's nothing you could ask for
more
than that.
Yeah. So back to the NL West. I think it's just crazy because just about every team, Diamondbacks not so much, but I mean they kind of do, is just powerhouses.
Yeah.
I mean, Padres, Giants, Dodgers, D-backs with Ketel Marte, Christian Walker,
definitely.
Some of those guys, they do have power. But when you look at those three teams, I mean, it's just, and by three teams, I mean Dodgers, Padres, and Giants. I mean, just like they can hit a home run every guy in their lineup. But on top of that, and the real issue is the pitching is insane.
Yeah.
I mean, you never face a starter or a bullpen guy that, has an ERA normally over like 3 or 4.
Yeah, it's ridiculous.
And yeah, they do play in pitchers' ballparks. But, I mean, they shut people down at Coors and some of these hitters' ballparks too. So yeah, it's a tough division for sure. But I like that we've made some moves and we're showing signs that we can maybe compete some this year. So
well, it's a scary division to play in.
Oh yeah,
because like you said, at times you look through, you're going the 1 through 5 on the rotation or whatever, and eventually you get to that 4-5 gear. Like, okay, here's a chance maybe to steal a game from these guys because it's one of their weaker pitchers. But you have a weaker pitcher for the Dodgers, and it's like this is not a weaker pitcher. This is a number 1 pitcher on 20 other teams, right? Yep. And so it's really, really challenging to steal a game. What sometimes you have to do, you got to be able to swipe a game. And against the Giants, against the Padres, against the Dodgers, it's not really frequent that you're able to do that.
Yep.
The one thing that I am excited about, and you kind of alluded to it as well, is for the first time, and we've had a few lineups between Blackman and Trev and Nolan where I was like, okay, we're competing. But from top to bottom this year, I'm like, we also can say about our lineup, just about everybody in this lineup can go yard. Maybe not Iglesias. I mean, he can, but Iglesias maybe doesn't have a power bat. But the majority of the other players generally do. And so I feel like we're in a position to really compete in the NL West, not for the first time, but really in a strong way. I think we have an opportunity to make a dent and do some damage.
For sure.
So let's talk about how the NL West is going to shake out at the end of the year. So we got 5 spots. Give me your 1 through 5 about where they're finishing.
Yeah, so Rockies finished in 4th place last year. Kind of a rough year, but we honestly played a lot better than people expected. This year, I expect us to finish in 3rd place, actually, which might surprise some people. But I think it's very doable for sure. But I have to go with the Dodgers winning the division. They lost it last year. Yeah, they lost it last year against the Giants. Giants took it. Dodgers had it for like 8 straight years, I think it was. I think they're going to come back and get that after not winning it last year. I got the Padres in 2nd. I know Fernando Tatis is out the first 3 months, but I mean, they're still a super tough team even without him.
Yeah.
And their pitching's crazy too. So I got them in 2nd. I got us in 3rd. I got the Giants in 4th, and the reason is I know they finished in 1st last year, but I really feel like they had some guys last year, pitchers and position players, that were like breakout stars and had a super solid or like over the top year, and I don't think they're gonna
sustain it.
Be near as good as they were last year. And so good for them to have a great year last year, but I just don't think it'll stay. And Buster's gone, retired this off season. I mean, that does change. I mean, it affects it having that veteran presence and.
Yep.
But they
even
do
in the clubhouse.
Yeah, the clubhouse, the leadership. Yeah, for sure. And then obviously I have to go with the D-backs in last place because they're the last team left and they struggle. But they signed Ketel Marte to an extension this weekend, so I mean maybe they're going in the right direction. We'll see. But that's what I got. So.
So Dawson and I, we talked about this pre-show, of course, and he was sharing his thoughts with me about the Giants. I really don't agree with him on that, but nevertheless, here's my 1 through 5. It's hard not to pick the Dodgers. As much as I cannot stand that ugly blue, it's hard not to put them at the top of the NL West. Freddie, though he's just one bat, my goodness, it's a big bat. It's a big smile, and it's great leadership. And it's Freddie is just Freddie, man. He's MVP caliber player every single year. And I think he's going to make a huge impact. And though they lost Seager, I mean, that's still a heck of a lineup. It's scary. So Got the Dodgers in first. I'm putting us Rockies at number 2 this year. I think we're going to be second place in the division, which I know is bold.
I'd love to see it.
I know you'd love to see it. Usually you'll find with us, I have an optimistic, bold prediction. Dawson would love to see it, but he doesn't always make the same prediction. But for me, again, I told you last week, 90-win year for us, and I think that's going to put us in second place spot, and I'm excited. I do have the Giants coming in at 3, which is also surprising to people putting the Padres, all the way down at 4. I think those 3 months without Tatis are actually going to make a big impact on their overall record, and we'll see how that all shakes. And then D-backs in the 5th spot. They could surprise us and have a big year. I just don't actually foresee that happening. They are the weak spot of the NL West as of right now. And so that's what I've got. Dodgers, Rockies, Giants, Padres, and D-backs. So, Doss, biggest threat to the Rockies in the NL West?
Again, it's kind of hard not to, just being honest, it has to be the Dodgers. They always have our number, it seems like, whether it's at Dodger Stadium or at Coors Field. Pitching rotation is one of the best in the whole league. Bullpen's one of the best in the whole league, and their lineup is arguably the best almost ever now. It's just insane. So I got them as the biggest threat this year for sure. What about you?
So I think for me, it's like, I know they're a threat to us, but honestly, I think I've kind of come to terms within myself that we're probably not going to compete for the first spot with them. I think it's going to be more of a battle for the 2 spot. And because I think the Giants are going to have another big year between La Stella and Longoria and Flores and now adding the big bat of Jock Peterson, I think they're going to have a good year. And so I think the Giants are actually the biggest threat to us getting that second spot. I think it's going to be a battle coming down the stretch for that 2-3. And I think the Giants are going to give us a heck of a time. But I think we're going to pull out on top of that and finish second in the division. So I'm excited. This is going to be a fun year because, like we've said already, the lineup is stacked. But we're not the only lineup that's stacked. There's going to be some big games in the NL West.
And not just in the NL West. There's lineups stacked in the Central and East too. So
right. So NL or AL, which is a tougher? Now that the DH has been added, which is the tougher league?
Man, I feel like I have to go with the National League. That might be kind of biased, being Rockies and just kind of an NL fan. You got the Blue Jays who are insane. The Yankees are always competitive. Red Sox added, the Rays, White Sox. They're going to be tough this year.
Yeah, they are.
Astros, we'll see what happens. They'll be good for sure. But losing Carlos Correa, I'm interested to see. Because, again, that changes the clubhouse
100%.
and everything. But, yeah, when you look at the National League, the Braves, Mets, Phillies, Dodgers, Padres, Giants, Rockies, Cardinals, Brewers, Cubs might be decent this year.
I think they're going to be.
It's just, and even the Marlins. They added Jorge Soler and signed a few extensions this offseason. So they're looking good too. So yeah, that's what I have to go with. But
yeah, I think I'm the same. I'm not going to expand on that too much. I will always be an NL fan.
Yep.
And I just believe the NL is a better division. Always have, always will. I don't care about the All-Star game or whatever else they can predict. I just think the NL is a better team. And now with the DH.
Yep.
It's going to put a little more of those power bats in the lineup, but I just think it's going to make them more of a potent team. So I got the NL. So talking about power, speaking of power, one of the things that we're excited to talk about, as we already have been for the last 20 minutes, is the power in our Rockies lineup. So Doss, talk to me about who's going to hit the most home runs in our lineup. And this is not an easy question, though it maybe is not a big implication in terms of where we finish. It's just something fun to discuss as big Rockies fans. Who ends with the most home runs, and who hits the first one?
It's a tough question, especially after adding Randal Grichuk. You just don't know. I just have to go with Chris Bryant. And adding that he wants to be a Rocky and wants to play at Coors, I think he's just going to have a monster year and have fun with it. Obviously, you have fun when you hit a bunch of home runs for sure. So I got him hitting 35 to 40 for sure. Maybe even breaking the 40 home run mark. Who knows?
I think he could, of course.
Yeah.
He's got the kind of bat.
And actually, for the first home run of the season, it might be a little bit of a shocker, but maybe not. I just think that the guy who's been with us the longest so far is going to get us started. He had a rough start to the season last year. I think Chuck's going to go yard in his second at-bat of the season.
Second AB.
We'll be there. We'll let you know if he hits it in
his second at-bat. You heard it here first.
So.
I love it. I would love to see Chuck take an early 1 yard, maybe game 1. Be great. Get a jump on him. Home runs, tough for me. Part of me wants to say Raimel. I think that he has a chance to really have a big year. I'm gonna go. I think I as much as I want to disagree with Dawson, I think I'm gonna go with KB as well for most home runs. I think he's going to get to 40, but I definitely could see him jumping over 40. And I would absolutely love to see that. So I'm going to go with Kris Bryant hitting the most home runs for us. But the first home run of the year, I'm going to go with my breakout star. I think Sam Hilliard's going to get the first one over the fence for the Rocks this year. And I also think he's going to do it in Game 1. And I think that's going to be sort of the springboard or the catapult to get him into a big year.
And he's always hit well against the Dodgers, too.
No lies.
So
he has. So Ezekiel Tavar, he's not going to start in the majors with us. But, man, he's had a huge... And I mean huge spring training. Hitting, and like we've talked about, I know it's just spring, but hitting over 500 in spring. 3 home runs and shots, too. Tons of swagger. Great glove on him. I mean, known for his glove up to this point until he starts hitting bombs in spring training. Somebody that I look at and I'm like, that could be the future of our organization in the infield. I mean, somebody that's a huge deal. So if you're Jose Iglesias and you're looking back at Tavar, what's that making? Are you excited about Tavar? Because you're on a 1-year deal. I mean, this could mean you're a one and done with Colorado because Tavar's coming up next year. Do you think the Rockies bring him up to be underneath Iglesias, an experienced shortstop? Like, how do you think we're going to treat Tavar, and how would you treat him in our organization?
I mean, I think kind of like what I said earlier, you just got to treat him as a young guy, honestly. You know, he has had a great spring training so far, but I think you just got to keep him. I think he only played in Double-A last year.
Yeah, I think you're right.
So I think get him in Triple-A, get him in the swing of playing a lot of games, maybe bring him up for, if we need him some. I don't think we should consider putting him over Iglesias, at least this year for sure. Because one of the big reasons why we brought Iglesias to the Rockies, obviously Trevor left, and we weren't really looking for a huge superstar to fill that role because we got Kris Bryant, We weren't looking for Carlos Correa or, those big free agents, Javi Baez. But we brought him in because of his experience and his veteran presence in the lineup and on the field and in the clubhouse.
Yeah.
He's had experience in the playoffs before, and I think he's like 30, 31 years old, which isn't super old, but I mean,
veteran.
Yeah, he's had experience, and I think he's going to be a good leader for the team. And he can hit. He doesn't have as much power, but he's a contact hitter and can occasionally, knock one over the fence and then a solid glove. So
yeah, no, he's going to put the ball in play.
Yep.
You can pretty much count on that. He's going to put the bat on the ball. He's going to be really consistent, really reliable at the sixth, the shortstop spot. And I think he's somebody that we can trust.
Yep.
I sometimes lean toward the star, and I see Tavar as a star in the making, and I see him as more of a star than Iglesias. So part of me is like, hey, let's get this kid up and let's get some star power with KB and all these guys that we got. I mean, this crazy star-driven lineup. But I think you're right. And Dawson brings the words of wisdom today because I get excited, but there's wisdom in what he's saying. Tavar, we need to get him at-bats in AAA. We need to get him in some adverse situations. We need to put him in uncomfortable places beyond just spring, but in a day-to-day grueling grind of a long season in AAA. Get him some experience, see how he performs. Certainly maybe pull him up here and there across the season just to see how he can fit into the lineup. But I really could see him making his official rookie season next year and having a big year and then becoming a big part of the Rocks.
Yep.
So that's kind of my thought. He's 20. Again, tons of star power, but we don't want to rush it because, he's still a kid. We're young too, but he's a kid. And it's what it is. So maybe we'll see Tavar up in the majors this year. Probably not long term, but next year, I think there's a good chance it's a big part of it. I'm excited about that. So, final thoughts, Doss. Anything? We're going to talk about the opening day starter predictions, but any final thoughts before we go there?
I think just with spring training with the pitching, Kyle Freeland pitched this past week. Austin Gomber and German Marquez had his first start. They're looking good, obviously it's spring training, not pitching more than like 3 or 4 innings, but they're getting there with the shortened spring training. They're having to pitch more, throw more pitches and stuff like that. They look good. They feel good. That's a really good sign.
Definitely.
Kyle Freeland changed his grip on his changeup. We'll see how that plays out. Seemed to be pretty good. In his start last week, struck out Mike Trout with the changeup, so that's a good sign, I guess. So, But yeah, that's all I got. So.
Cool. Yeah, pitching. I mean, final thoughts for me. Our pitchers look good in the spring for the most part. I just want to see us come out and pitch lights out. And we need it to. With the lineup that we've got and the opportunities to genuinely make a push for the NL West, and more than that, a playoff push and maybe a deep playoff push, we've got to have consistent pitching. And it doesn't have to be anything fancy. It just needs to be consistent.
Yep.
And I really, really hope we get that. I'm getting more confident every day in our rotation. It's just, again, that bullpen that kind of scares me sometimes.
Yep.
So, opening day starter. We're talking about pitchers right now. Who are you putting on the hill that first day against the Dodgers?
So a lot of teams have, announced their opening day starter. The Rockies have not, as of right now. But I think it has to be German Marquez. He was our ace last year, made his first All-Star game appearance, just had a crazy year last year. Andy's my favorite.
Yeah.
But I think there's no question. I think he'll be our ace again this year, and I think he'll start on opening day. So
I love Kyle Freeland. I think that he's going to have a big year. I mean, there's been injuries, there's been things that have just happened, extenuating circumstances that I think have limited him on the national stage or scale, because I think he's that type of guy. I think he's a national recognition type player, and I think he has the potential to have a heck of a year. And I'm really, really excited about Kyle Freeland, but I agree with you. I think Marquez gets the start. I don't know how we go anywhere else. Yeah. He is the ace. He's the guy. He's got a ton of swagger. He grew out the hair. There's just something about him this year, and I feel like he's going to have a heck of a year. So I got Marquez opening day too.
Yeah.
Cool. Well, everybody, thank you so much for joining us on RoxTalk Episode 2. It's always an honor to have you join us. Please go ahead and subscribe. Follow us on any pages that we're at, YouTube, Twitter, TikTok, Instagram, and Facebook. You can find us all of those places and interact with us. It's us responding, and we're all about that. We want your interaction. We want to hear from you, and we're excited about 2022 for Colorado Rockies. We'll talk to you next week.
Yep. Go Rockies.
Go Rocks.